Well, all you Streetlight Crusaders, words could not describe this moment right now for us on this microphone. 1 year ago, for the 10-year anniversary of the Tuesday Night Special, we spent that away from home. And it hurt. It really did. We were away from home, the fanfare, the celebration under those bright street lights, but those weren't the street lights we were used to. Those weren't the street lights that brought this show into existence. Those weren't the street lights that we know and love. But after the show was over, after the microphone turned off, after everything that we did, we said we'll be home by 11. Now, I didn't know that would have a double meaning for this very day. Because for those who don't know, on Earth Day, well over 11 years ago, April 22nd of 2014, we would start this show. Granted, we didn't have any idea what this show was going to be. It was originally supposed to be something to cover the bases for Monday Night Raw and for just any other things we couldn't fill for Music Village because it was too important to wait till the end of the week. Fast forward 1 year later, not only are we mentioning stuff for Monday Night Raw, we're mentioning stuff from indie games, cool concerts, and everything else you could possibly imagine, and it would only get bigger from there. And looking back at that and trying to figure out words to say for the beginning of this show that came full circle at 11 is unbelievable. So to all those who helped along the way, and we're going to say it again by the end of the show because we're going to have a CVS receipt list of people we got to thank. But to cover things before we go any further into things getting really loud, we would like to say thank you. The only thing we can really say is really thank you. Well, I guess with all the mushy stuff out of the way, I think it's time we kick things off old school, sans tradition, and call in the maestro wearing your fancy suits over in the corner with the blue lights above the Music Village headquarters right now. Hit it. All right, all you up-all-nighters, you insomniatic TV watchers, gamers, grapplers, and drivers, and especially you Streetlight Crusaders from all around the world, welcome to the 11-year anniversary homecoming edition of the Tuesday Night Special, or what we're gonna call it for tonight, the 11 at Night Special. I am your 11-year insomniatic host from the East Coast, DJ Smokey. And seeing the fact that we're celebrating our 11-year anniversary underneath these bright street lights on the day that this show was conceived, I think it's time for us to waste no time and explain to you guys what's going to happen on this critically named but critically acclaimed edition of the 11 at Night Special. Because we kick things off with what happened during this week's edition of Monday Night Raw from Los Angeles, and according to Call in the Maestro with a sign over in the back, Vegas. I keep forgetting. Next up on the plate, we go into a very special Comedy Central Colorado show edition of the As Seen on TV. And if you're wondering at home, we saved it especially for this episode, even though we completely forgot to review it for well over 4 years. Also, besides that, we go ahead into a very special comeback story, big time edition of the DJ Smokey's Great Moments in Wrestling History. And according to Call in the Maestro, that's a placeholder just in case Dan the Weatherman Stu's late for this week. Good way to put it. And I got a feeling he just might be. But also besides that, folks, we go ahead and check out some cool games and as well as video game hits, clips, as well as scratching that indie itch you've got at home for another edition of the Indy Cade Triple S Deluxe that may or may not have 11 games a part of it, to go along with this show anniversary. Then we find out what sort of crazy weather we're going to expect for this week and a crazy outfit that Dan the Weatherman Stu is going to have along with it for another edition of the weather update. And according to Carla the Maestro, he's going to wear that peacock outfit we mentioned last week. And boy, from the picture they took, it is brighter than all hell. Yeesh. Then finally, last but certainly not least, and hopefully before the morning sun rises, we wrap up the show yet another edition of the Indy Report, which is me giving you guys 2 news stories followed up by local content information from local artists performing in a local area live near you. And I guess with that said, I might as well tell Carl and my show to kick up the beats, crank out the tunes, and most importantly, let that blue confetti rain to celebrate a homecoming anniversary like no other and kick those blue lights up a notch. Cause it's time for us to bring some fun and delight on your street-lit, moonlit, blue moon anniversary homecoming Tuesday night. Only here, right here, on the 11 at Nite Special. So let's get this anniversary party started, folks. Alright, all you Streetlight Crusaders, and I guess a couple you wrestling fans who are still up for tonight, welcome back to the 11 at Night Special. And now it's time for us to find out what happened during this week's edition of Monday Night Raw from Viva Las Vegas. Because Carl and the Maestro said we got a little bit too hyped during the intro and forgot that it was in Las Vegas and not in Los Angeles. But for some strange reason, I keep thinking every single year after WrestleMania, they would always go to Los Angeles. Weird. But either way you look at it, folks, Monday Night Raw will kick off with none other than a recap of the grand stage of WrestleMania, but most importantly, with John Cena. And John Cena with nothing for colors and the usual fanfare that he would have, but instead would have gold in his hands and would raise it high above his head and get tons of pyrotechnics after his major title win, or theft, according to some, and Carl and the Maestro adding their 2 cents for it, at WrestleMania. And after the pyrotechnics, he would ask for a better introduction for a note that he would give saying that he would be one of the last real champions and considered as a GOAT. And yeah, all right, just call yourself the greatest of all time and move on. But either way, he would say that winners write history and none of you are worthy to be in his presence. But at the same time, like we said before, and we'll say it again, until they count the other 8 championships Ric Flair had as a world champion, Cena didn't beat nothing, but he is one of the most winning of the world champions in that company's history. But either way you look at it, folks, to get back on track, he would say that just because you're all in a good mood and you just cheer me because I brought some gold out here, you can all still go to hell. And the fans would chant, "We are sorry," but according to Cena, they would say, "We aren't sorry, but you are sorry," and calls them a bunch of sorry bunch of fans. And say that they still don't mean anything for him, and he would say that he's been ripped apart by people for years, and this is not the crowd that's gonna take him out. And would then go on further by saying that he has only but 36 dates left and he's gone. And after the other dates that he listed down, it would drop down to 27 dates. And he said 27 dates just to show up, not matches. And once that timer hits the 0, Pro Wrestling Timeline stops dead in its tracks. And he said, yeah, of course, you're going to find somebody else. You're going to find a new champion, have a tournament, wherever, but he will be the last champion of WWE. And all he has to do every time he come out here is to play you all like puppets, and would say that he's all heartless and all the fans heartless for booing Cody Rhodes after he fought on your behalf. And I would have to agree, Cody Rhodes really did leave it on the line and they just boo him for that? All right, well, they're entitled to their opinion. And at the same time, he would tell everybody to get out their cameras, to take out the camera to take a picture of the last real champion in this company. And while everybody was getting out their cameras, Randy Orton was getting out from underneath the ring to hit an RKO from out of nowhere on John Cena to hold the championship high within his hands, to have the fans serenade him with his own entrance music before we head into our first match of the night, which would be, in a shocker move, a rematch for the Women's Tag Team Championship, seeing none other than Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez going one-on-one against the new Tag Team Champions of the Women's Division, Becky Lynch and Laya Valkyria. Now, during the break, and something that many of you fans didn't get a chance to see, Liv Morgan would welcome everybody to Monday Night Morgan and would say the last couple of days has been rough because she didn't have time to prepare for the surprise announcement of the brand new partner and the fact that everybody accused her of taking out Bayley at the said pay-per-view of WrestleMania. But at the same time, we'll say that they will beat them tonight and will be the greatest tag team champions of all time. And during this match, to prove that they will beat them, we would see Liv Morgan immediately going after Becky Lynch to finish the job off she started almost a year ago, and would even see a knee smasher and tornado face slam to Laya Valkyria for near fall. Even a clothesline and stomps followed up afterwards by Raquel Delira for near fall. For Becky Lynch to get back into this match and deliver not only 2 corner step-up kicks to Raquel and Liv, and a Bexploder to Liv Morgan for near fall. Even the Oblivion getting countered into the manhandle slam, still for near fall, and thanks to Raquel for that. An Avalanche Tanahana bomb during this match to the Nightwing for near fall. Only for Laya Valkyria, speaking of the Nightwing, to deliver a tornado DDT and a Nightwing to Raquel Rodriguez for near fall, thanks to Liv Morgan putting her foot on the ropes. But ultimately, this match would come to an end again as Liv Morgan would be in wait, as we would see a Nightwing getting countered, Raquel getting knocked off the apron, Becky Lynch spilling on the floor, and an Oblivion from out of left field for Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez to reclaim their tag team champions not even 24 hours after WrestleMania via pinfall. What? How and why? And well, yeah, I'm not the only one who was shocked and amazed by this, because Becky Lynch, who would decide to hug Laya Valkyria afterwards, would clothesline and beat the daylights out of Laya Valkyria, yelling something at her, only to hit her with not 1, not 2, but 3 manhandle slams, leaving her lying in the center of the ring for Lyra 2 belts to be 1 belt less and 1 friend less due to what happened during that match. But meanwhile, in the clubhouse, we would see the Judgment Day celebrating, as well as Dominic Mysterio about the fact that he's an Intercontinental Champion. For Finn Balor with a 1,000-yard stare in his eyes directly at Dominic Mysterio. For Liv Morgan to say, well, the championship's back in the clubhouse. That's a good thing, right? You should be glad that the championship's back, right? Right? And for Finn Balor to say, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Congratulations, champ. And then we'll go on further to say that I'll be in your corner tonight for your title defense that you got against Penta. Okay? But outside of that, folks, next thing you know, we would see American Made making their way out to the ring with Chad Gable, excited about the fact that El Grande Americano would end up beating Rey Fenix instead of beating Rey Mysterio, who faked an injury to get out of the match. And El Grande Americano is on a victory tour and will return soon to entertain the masses. A thank you. His exact words, and later on in the night, to save you all the trouble of looking it up, they would have a whole bunch of footage of El Grande Americano celebrating in the streets, once again being recognized as a luchador and the king of the luchadors. I beg to differ, sir. I beg to differ. And speaking of people who think themselves as kings, we would see the New Day coming out to the ring and telling everybody to get on their knees and raise their hands high and thank God for the New Day. And for Kofi Kingston to say that no team alive or dead is better than them. And then for none other than the Alpha Academy to come out and would bring up the fact that, well, we beat you in under a minute. So we demand a tag team title match, right here, right now. Only for the New Day to say no, and for Maxine to say, oh, so are the Minutemen scared? And then for Minutemen chants happening during this said Raw After Mania crowd, and Pat McAfee singing a Missy Elliott classic of 1 Minute Man. For the New Day to say, you know what, you're on. But just before the bell could ring, the lights would go out, trumpet-like music would hit, and none other than the Bulgarian brute himself, Rusev, for the first time in 5 long years, would return back to WWE. And would return back with a vengeance because the New Day would clear out as the Alpha Academy's Tozawa and Otis would try to fight him. For Otis to get clotheslined, for Tozawa to get headbutt out of mid-flight, and even grabbed out of the skies and get hit with a fallaway slam, for Otis to receive a roundhouse, a machka kick, and an accolades for his troubles. And for Rusev to say that he's here to take everything. Okay, Rusev, okay. And with him being possibly one of the most dangerous United States champions of all time, I got a feeling something bad is coming down the road when it comes to Rusev. I really do. I really do. And the next thing to take place on Monday Night Raw would see none other than Io making her way out to the ring to celebrate her world title win at WrestleMania, saying that she was able to beat the best, and now she is the best, and still the women's world champion! For the fans to chant and to cheer for her, only for of all people to come out, the resident NXT Women's Champion herself, Stephanie Vaquer. And Stephanie would come out and congratulate her on her win at WrestleMania and came out there to show respect and said that she wants to fight the best and wants to face her tonight. And then for Io to say, oh, you want to face me tonight? Well, how about right here, right now? For the fans to cheer, and then for Adam Pearce to say, hold on, hold on, hold on, to a rain of boos. For Adam Pearce to say, oh, you guys want the match? Well, Vegas, do you want it? They would say, yeah. And then immediately after saying, yeah, they want that match, Adam Pearce would say, yeah, I want the match too. So let's get a referee out here and let's do it. So for the second match of the night, we would see Stephanie Vaquer going one-on-one against Io Sky in a champion versus champion match. Nice. And during this match, Stephanie would go off the top of the barricade with a crossbody and follow things up inside of the ring with a leg drop for a near fall. Even seeing a top rope arm drag, missile drop kick, followed up by a bullet train attack out of the corner by Io, still for a near fall. for a dragon screw and a bullet train of her own for Stephanie McCare still to get a near fall in this match. A gut stomp by Io during this match, still a near fall. A head kick, back suplex, and a figure four headlock mat slam that Booker T would probably go crazy for a near fall. Even seeing a tilt-a-whirl pump fake roll-up by Stephanie McCare in very impressive psych fake you out fashion for a near fall. But immediately as things was really starting to get good after a Spanish fly off the top rope by Io, and Io going in for the kill, only to see none other than Roxanne Perez to come from out of nowhere, blindside her, for Stephanie McCare to get a boot to the face from Julia. And both of them would join in on a beatdown on both champions for Rhea Ripley to make her way out to the ring with a shiner on her eye and immediately take out Roxanne Perez with a headbutt and would stare down Julia for Julia to just hold her hands up saying she don't want any of it and leave. For Rhea Ripley to help out Io on her feet, but at the same time stare at that Women's World Championship, telling her, I'm still coming for that. For the said champion to just look onward at the help she just got, and for us to go to commercial. But after that said commercial break, or during it for those who didn't see it, Pat McAfee would thank everybody in attendance and everybody around the world for this past weekend's WrestleMania, and definitely made it a blast for them, and would say thank you to everybody in attendance. But after that big thank you, folks, we would then go into a full Yeet-like party, because Jey Uso would make his way to the ring and would end up getting a one more time chant for Jey Uso to do the whole run the music back thing he usually does, which is fun for me to see, for him to have a repeat of a re-yeet that he would have in the center of the ring, this time without the 10 to 20 pounds of gold in his hands to truly get into the moment. And would then pick up the microphone and say that he wanted this since he was a kid and gave it his all to beat Gunther that night, but at the same time was able to make him tap out, for he tapped out chance to begin, and for Gunther, probably stewing in the wait, would then say from Jey Uso that he's gonna show up every day and put the work in, and he's gonna make sure he becomes one of the best champions he could be. Now, granted, he didn't say that last part, but I got a feeling he meant it. And as he was getting ready to celebrate once again, Sammy Uso would make his way down to the ring and wanted to be in the ring to be the first guy to say, congratulations, I'm proud of you, and you deserve it. For the fans to lead in a you deserve it chant, and for them to celebrate, but before they could even yeet again, Jimmy Uso would make his way down to the ring for a mini bloodline reunion for all of them to yeet and celebrate in the ring and make their way up the ramp for the fans to still yeet for Jey Uso. And I think that might have been the most times we said the word yeet during this very programming. But meanwhile, backstage, after Logan Paul would win his match at WrestleMania, he would get a post-match interview being talked to about what happened at WrestleMania, with his friends showing up and Karrion Kross's interference for him to say, I got the win. All of what you said is irrelevant. I won. He didn't. And now I'm going to go on to do what I need to do. They could put me in the ring with whoever they are. Whoever's across from me is going to be a victim. Sounding more or less like Karl Malone whenever he got interviewed, a part of the Man Show. So, yeah, right. Anyway, outside of that interview with Logan Paul, we would hear from the Phenomenal One saying that him losing this year at WrestleMania was a tough pill to swallow. And he's going to eat that loss. But at the same time, he's going to move on and bounce back. For Cross to say, oh, so you're going to move on and bounce back after that? You know that because you lost against him at WrestleMania, now you legitimized him. But you were the best of us all to try to take him down a peg or two. For AJ Styles to say, if I had done what you wanted me to do, I would go back to the person I was a year ago, and I never want to go back to that guy again. And since you're so angry about all that, what's going on, how about you handle it yourself? For Cross to say, maybe I will. I do not like the evil grin on that man's face after he said that, and if I was Logan Paul, I would really be humble, like your song says, because you might end up getting dive bombed on your head in the near future, and it's not gonna be a pretty sight. But outside of the universal arbitrator of suffering getting ready for his next target, we would hear from A-Town Down Under saying welcome home the Rusevs, and would declare themselves the new #1 contenders for the tag team championships, for the Raw Raiders to come out and say, hey, New Day, we're still breathing. And we watched you run for the hills after you stole those belts from us, and trust me, I hope you remember that Raw is war. Which means in the near future, New Day's gonna have their mettle tested against the War Raiders for their first title defense. And speaking of titles, folks, the next thing to take place on Monday Night Raw would see Gunther, right after the War Raiders came out, coming out and complaining. And for the fans to say, you tapped out, for him to say, shut up, I'm still the greatest in the world and nothing has changed. And would immediately get in the face of the announcers after what happened, and would get in Michael Cole's face especially, saying, oh, so you like Jey Uso? You like Jey Uso? For Michael Cole to say, hey, I'm just a commentator, I'm just an announcer, it's not my fault that you tapped out. For Michael Cole to get the headset ripped off his head, pushed out of his seat, and then immediately get, oh wait, actually, according to Cole and the Maestro, Pat McAfee would get pushed into his seat as he would try to intervene with what's going on. And then Michael Cole would get caught with a sleeper. For Pat McAfee to jump in and immediately clock none other than Gunther right in the face. And then what would happen next? Well, yeah, I got some questions after this, but what would happen next, folks? We would then see security coming out, seeing none other than Pat McAfee just walk away and just try to defuse the situation, for Gunther to immediately grab him from behind and then choke him out. Now, usually security that was out there would try to get Gunther off of Pat McAfee, but instead, Pat McAfee's boys, who decided to hop the barricade to try to help his friend out, they would stop them. And all the while they were trying to stop him, mind you, we would then see Pat McAfee getting choked out to the color purple and would be gasping for air after we would see Shane Helms and others over there trying to get the choke off. Really? Really? Are you really? Really? What? I really don't get security, so I have no idea. I'm at a loss for words for that. Seriously? So when he's getting choked out as an announcer who does the play-by-play, your first move is to go for the ones who try to help him out from getting choked instead of helping the person who's getting choked? Okay. But as Pat McAfee tries to recover and Joe Tessitore would make his way to the commentary table, we would then hear from Adam Pearce telling none other than Michael Cole that, yeah, you need to go to medical, you need to take the rest of the night off. For Michael Cole to get the cheer of a lifetime for what he would say next. He's not going to let a bully stop him from doing his job for WrestleMania week, and I'm going back out there. And for the fans to chant for Michael Cole as he make his way back to the announce desk for the main event of the evening, which would see none other than Dominic Mysterio going one-on-one against Penta. And during this match, we would see action going back and forth, and with Carlito and Finn Balor at ringside, do you think chicanery was going to happen? Well, yeah. Because during this match, outside of Penta pulling off a reverse sling blade, enziguri, and handstand corner dropkick for a near fall, we would see Dominic Mysterio come back with a Michinoku driver for a near fall. A tornado DDT would not end this match either. But what would end this match, folks, is when Penta would try to go up to the top rope for something big, for of all people to make his way back, JD McDonald from out of left field, knocking him off the top rope, Carlito distracting the referee, 619 and a frog splash follow-up later. Dominic Mysterio still your Intercontinental Champion via pinfall. And Finn Balor, during all of this, was shocked and amazed to see JD back. And at the same time, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Carlito, Dominic, all celebrating the fact that they still got gold in their hands. And JD celebrating alongside with them, but Finn still confused. Probably because I got a feeling, just like the rest of us, did not know that JD was going to be back tonight. Yikes. And immediately after that match was over, we would see none other than Seth Rollins, making his way to the ring with microphone in hand, saying that he is a visionary, he is a revolutionary, he took a wise man from Roman, a friend from Punk, and is the winner of the main event of WrestleMania. And before he could even say Seth Rollins, CM Punk made his way to the ring to beat the ever-living Daylight's flag tag right out of Seth Rollins. And while he was stomping him out like a wildfire, we would see Paul Heyman behind him trying to sneak behind to get another low blow shot in for Punk to set his eyes directly on him. And while he had him handle over in the corner, we would see Seth Rollins raking at the eyes and then stomping the head of CM Punk right into the mat. Now, after that stomp into the dirt, as we would see the end credits for Raw pop up, we would hear Paul Heyman saying that he's here with a news report that will end WrestleMania 41 and kick off into WrestleMania 42, that we have the new reigning, defending #1 star in this company, Seth freaking Rollins. But one person out there to dispute that and get his pound of flesh would be Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns would come out and hit Seth with a spear, Paul Heyman with a Superman punch, and would line him up for a spear, only to get hit with a spear from none other than Braun Breaker. Someone who wasn't in the picture for the Intercontinental Championship and didn't even get his rematch, but at the same time would then spear CM Punk. And then for Seth Rollins to pat him on the shoulder saying, "That's my boy," for him to bark orders at him to go after Roman Reigns. And Roman, who would try to fight back with an uppercut to the throat, would feel a school zone spear right through the barricade, dragged back inside of the ring to watch Punk get stomped in the back of his head, and then for him to get stomped out, for them to go through the curtain after Monday Night Raw would conclude and say, "We control everything," and for Raw to close out after WrestleMania's big reset button after Raw will go off the air. But what will happen next week on Raw? Will Seth Rollins finally explain himself for becoming the Monday Night Messiah once again? Will Braun Breaker ever get his rematch for the Intercontinental Championship? Will Finn Balor finally have enough of Dominic Mysterio and decide to turn his back on him just like he did Damian Priest, like I almost mentioned? And what of the entire landscape of Raw? Will there be a draft that will affect it? We find out the answers to that and more next time for another exciting WrestleMania Reset Button edition of Monday Night Raw. But until then, folks, I think it's time for us to go out there and grab a glass of water. And when we return, we'll be back with more Streetlight Anniversary Delight as the 11 at Night special rolls on right after this. So don't go away just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Right, all you insomniatic TV channel surfers out there tonight, welcome back to the 11 at Nite Special. And now it's time for us to go into a very special insomniatic edition of the As Seen on TV. And to celebrate 11 years on this beautiful programming, we decided to go with the show that gives a tribute to Comedy Central, only known as South Park. And yes, if you're wondering at home, I can't believe it took us this long to review it, but at the same time, well worth the wait for this show. And the meat and potatoes of this said show would feature 4 boys from South Park, Colorado, going on crazy adventures that tend to go horribly, and I do mean horribly wrong. Is the best meat and potatoes that we have for this show. And with those meat and potatoes out of the way, folks, what did I love about this said show? Well, besides some of the musical performances that would take place during it, would have to definitely be the ever controversial and comedy moments that would happen during this show, especially for the first season of it, which really did get dark with a couple of the episodes. And another thing that I loved about this show would be the people involved during it. And we might as well kick things off with none other than Trey Parker. And Trey Parker during this show would play, and Carl and Michael said, are we going to mention all of the names? Well, just the first 10. Because he would be responsible for playing Stan Marsh, Eric Cartman, Randy Marsh, Mr. Garrison, Mr. Mackey, Jimmy Ballmer, Clyde, Steven Scotch, Officer Barb Brady, a TV news reporter, a TV announcer, and Chris Dodge, as well as others a part of South Park for well over 300 plus episodes. Yikes! But outside of being responsible for that, he would also be responsible for none other than the movie music that was featured for South Park Bigger, Longer, Uncut, as well as being a part of the movie Orgasmo, Team America World Police, and even a part of none other than Basketball, as well as the film known as Cannibal the Musical. Next up on the list, and somebody who also has a CVS receipt list of amount of accomplishments a part of this show as well too, would be his partner in crime, none other than Matt Stone, who would not only play Kyle Broflovsky, Kenny McCormick, Gerald Bufalski, Butters Scotch, or better known as Butters Leopold Scotch, as well as Jimbo Kern, Craig Tucker, Stuart McCormick, Terrence, a priest Maxie, and as well as playing Jesus, Pip, Herb, as well as Ted and other characters featured a part of well over 300 plus episodes of South Park. And outside of being a part of that, he would also be a part of Basketball, as well as Orgasmo, Team America World Police, and also a part of none other than the Cannibal musical as well too. Yeah, and according to Carla the Maestro, it's sort of a Ben Affleck, Matt Damon relationship with those guys. Always attached at the hip with their projects, which I respect. Next up on the list, you have none other than Monica Marshall, who would not only be responsible for Sheila Broflovsky and Linda Scotch during this said show for 200 episodes, but would even be Kone Kamaru Miwa, a part of Blue Exorcist for 19 episodes, and even the lovable Izzy, Terramon, and Gororomon, a part of 130 episodes of the original Digimon Digital Monsters. You know, when they were kids. Next up on the plate, and oh, before I forget, and to remember to mention this as well too, she was also a part of Uzumaki as Suzuki's mother. Yeah, in some dark episodes for at least 3 of them. And next up after that, folks, you have the legendary man of music and the late, great Isaac Hayes, who would not only be responsible for a couple of cool songs that I loved as a kid, including Crazy About My Baby, but would also be responsible for the theme song of Shaft, even would be Zook, a part of Reindeer Games in 2000, and would also be the Duke, a part of Escape from New York in 1981, but most importantly known on this show of South Park as Chef. And yeah, definitely one of my favorite characters too. Next up on the plate, you would have none other than, and Court Nicole and the Maestro, Elijah Schneider, who would not only be a part of this show, but would also be responsible for being the assistant to Beekman in Beekman's World, with the New Yorker accent for those who didn't know, but would also be none other than a sweet old lady in 2012, a part of the film of Food Fight, as well as playing Rebecca Crane in 2010, and in 2012, a part of the Assassin's Creed series. And Court Nicole of the Maestro, she would also be Elizabeth Swan in the video game of Pirates of the Caribbean at Tide's End. Not bad. Next up on the plate, you would have none other than Jennifer Howell, who would not only play a multitude of different characters, a part of South Park, but would also be a person, a part of Orgasmo, and a part of Captain Underpants. You know, just to name a few. Next up on the plate, you would have none other than Betty Boogie Parker, who would not only play the lovable Ike Bafowski during this said show and Heather for 26 episodes of South Park, but would also be a part of the mobile game of Bone Destroyer, the video game of Snow Day, and also a part of the Fractured Butthole game of South Park. And I had to be careful how I said that title before I get in trouble with the FCC. Then you have none other than Jessica Mankinson, who would not only play Heidi Turner, a part of 47 episodes of South Park, but would also be featured a part of 2 episodes of Marin as Michelle Coyote, and also a part of the movie Under the Silver Lake as Miss Severance, and even played Carly, a part of 10 episodes of Halfway Home. Another show that was a part of Comedy Central, just to give you fans at home a heads up. Next up on the plate after that, you would have none other than the late great Mary Kay Bergman, who would not only be a part of the bigger, longer, uncut film as Leanne Cartman, but also would play Sheila Bafowski, a part of this said film, and a part of the show as well too. But as well as playing Quasimodo's mother, a part of the Hunchback of Notre Dame back in '96, and would even play the Wood Nymph and Earthquake Lady, a part of the animated series of Hercules, and was Bimbette, a part of Beauty and the Beast in '91. Nice! And finally, last but not least, you would have none other than Veron Chatman, who was a part of South Park for 154 episodes as a producer, as well as being a producer, a part of The Shivering Truth, Wonder Shows and The Heart She Holler, just to name a few. Now, outside of Chef being one of my favorite characters during this show, I would have to say the most controversial of them all, as being one of my favorites, would have to be Eric Cartman. Not only because of the way that he gets in trouble in the episodes that he would be featured in, including the one where he was a police officer telling people, "Respect my authority," which was absolutely hilarious, but also the episode where he made somebody eat their own parents, which was absolutely disturbing, and of course the Love or Make Love Not Warcraft episode. That was another one of my favorite episodes, a part of the show. But a couple of episodes that featured Chef that was one of my favorite episodes would have to be the one with the salty chocolate balls and the episode where he was singing about prostitutes to the kids that almost got him kicked out of school. And the fact that he had a musical guest join him alongside while he was singing the song made it that much better. And Another one of my favorite episodes with Chef would have to be the episode where he almost got married to a succubus that not only the children would try to warn him about, but I do believe none other than Mr. Garrison tried to warn him about too, which was absolutely hilarious. And with this show having well over 26 seasons, spanned over 328 episodes, and this show originally kicking off on Comedy Central as of August 13th of 1997, and is still going on strong to this very day. And with the fact that we don't know how to review shows along the lines of TV Guide or any of those other TV reviewers you know of out there, we say this. If you guys want to go ahead and watch a show with a couple of Colorado boys getting together to have a little bit of fun and end up in controversial moments that leads to the censors literally ripping their hair out and people trying to boycott this show for well over 20 plus years, almost 30 at this point, then I recommend you go out there, pick up your TV channel remotes, and watch that show. And trust me, folks, outside of the controversy, there is plenty of funny moments if you're able to find them. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back into that music once again. And when we return, we'll be back with more of the 11 at Night Special right after this. So don't go watching reruns of Seinfeld just yet, folks, and stay tuned. And we're back with the Insomniatic show that gives an honorary salute to one of Comedy Central's greatest exports, only known as the 11 at Night Special. And Carl and the Maestro during the break brought up the fact that they even came out with a Christmas CD that they're going to try to play on the air in the near future. Well, it depends on which song you're planning on playing, but either way you look at it, I got a feeling that would make for definitely a Merry Christmas. But besides Christmas music, folks, I think it's time for us to go ahead and check out a couple of those video game hits and clips while scratching that indie itch you've got for the world of Indie, Cade, for a very special anniversary edition of the Indie Cade Triple S Deluxe. And we kick things off with the art wall. And the art wall picture that we have up for this week comes from none other than Operation Breadcrumbs with their said artwork for the video game of Bed and Breakfast. And the artwork that we have up for this week shows our hero Sterling here wearing a pair of cool glasses above his head while having a suit and pinstripe skirt, overlooking what in the world's going on next to the fridge that has caution tape on it. And somewhat is that a blender? Apparently, according to Carl and the Maestro, yep, there's a blender there with a spilled drink and a bird at the scene, with him saying, take a look around your kitchen and try out your appliances. Your fridge is fully stocked, so go wild. Now, I thought this was a crime scene. Apparently, this is just him letting them know about his brand new fridge, probably for his office house. And this automatically reminds me of an onomatopoeia version of, I guess, Office Space? And Carl and the Maestro give me the thumbs up on that one. And here's hoping that Sterling's a better boss than the other guy that was featured during that film, because I got a feeling he'll probably drive him nuts. Get it? Because he's a squirrel. He'll drive nuts. Squirrel. And Carl and the Maestro didn't find that funny at all, right? And with that said, folks, we now make our way on over towards the sound wall. And the sound we have up for this week comes from none other than Jalabex with their said song of Cinematic that was featured a part of the game of Jalabox. And when I close my eyes while listening into this sound, it automatically reminds me of that big nature documentary show that I hosted for at least 6 weeks. And the reason why I didn't host it any further, folks, well, let's just say they had an episode that involved us going into a spider's nest that I absolutely refused to do. As a matter of fact, the spider nest was about the size of a basketball, and it had at least 45 spiders in it. Now, if you think I was going to be crazy enough to go in there, you're nuts. And Carla the Maestro said, well, you could have gotten a lot of money for that. Yeah, all right. Not even the money from King Tut's tomb would make me go anywhere near that. So, yeah, you can do that, but I'm not doing that. And I still refuse to this day, and they've called me at least 6 times this week for it. But besides a 7th phone call about trying to stick my hand into some giant oversized spider nest just to see the temperature of it, yeah, the next thing we have up is the Screenshot Saturday Showcase, and it comes from the developers Chris Scroyer with their said screenshot from the video game of 3 Days to Chicago. And the screenshot that they provided for this week shows our friend here, Paul, saying, I don't think we could have met any other way, while apparently sitting on the train as they were making their way to Chicago. And as a matter of fact, according to Carla the Maestro, next to that sentence, it's a tiny little railroad marker on it as well, too. And from the looks of it, it looks like they're riding on an Amtrak. I could be wrong with that one. I could be wrong. And this automatically reminds me of Tom Goes to the Mayor, and I got a feeling that's their destination of who they're gonna meet at that destination. And here's hoping in the near future for this set game that you get a chance to actually experience some cool music on the train for that ride. And why? Because it's gonna make the ride go a lot smoother than hearing somebody complain about the account that dropped while they're sitting behind you on the train. Trust me, that's not a great way to really ride on a train, if you know what I mean. And with that said, folks, we now make our way on over to the Indie Itch games from the itch.io page. And the first game that we have up is Curious Magpie with their set game of Memory Lane. Rotten Banana 32 with their set game of Project W. Herb Holy with their set game of Rising Bound. Hermes NG with their set game of Sim Echo EXE. Victoria GK with their set game of Flytrap. Zinsar with their set game of Boo AI Lost Civilizations Museum. Asomun with their set game of Cosmic Junker Simulator. Lopez GRC with their set game of Kid Story El Scalvo del Pasado, and hopefully we said that name right. Elysian Fields with their set game of Tunnel Vision. Ultra Time 609 with their set game of Chomp Tag. And finally, last but certainly not least, from the creator JoJo Paws with their set game of Left Behind. And according to Carla the Maestro, we can read several more games. You know what? We might as well go nuts. It's the anniversary. So the next game we have up comes from Little Daltino with their set game of Oogles. Starboy 19 with their set game of Summer Tag. Dante Rossi Gomez with their set game of Puede Lerve. Cone Games with their set game of Go Blocks Online. Deep Marks with their set game of Gas Station Escape. Quill GT with their set game of Repulsion VR. And finally, Beldies with their set game of Vampire. Nice name for the game. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out any other cool games that are still making their way through that Indie Itch page to scratch that Indie Itch for games you got at home, then you can go ahead and head on over to the itch.io page of one man only known as itch.io under the games section to check out all of those cool games for yourselves. And you might be there for a while, folks. I got 1 million of them. I really do. And if you also want to go ahead and check out any other cool games that was featured a part of the Art Wall, Sound Wall, Screenshot Saturday Showcase, or even have your games featured over there as well, then you can go ahead and head on over to their IndieCade.tumblr page, only known as IndieCade.tumblr.com, or head on over towards their Facebook page known as IndieCade, or even their Flickr, Instagram, YouTube, Discord, Twitch, SoundCloud, Steam Machine, our website that are all named the same, but it's just as critically acclaimed, only known as, you guessed it folks, IndieCade. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back to that music and continue to listen to these diamonds in the rough as we try to turn your Tuesday night into a Friday night. Only here, right here, on the 11 at Nite Special. So don't go away just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Right, all you insomniac video gamers out there tonight, welcome back to the 11 at Nite Special. And with Dan the Weatherman still late due to the fact that his whatever in the world outfit he decided to wear got caught in a car door, I think it's time for us to stall for time with a very special WrestleMania-sized comeback story anniversary of Insomniatic Varieties edition of Cue the Horns, Maestro! For the DJ Smokies, great moments in wrestling history. And yeah, if you're wondering at home, we're doing that Mighty Mouse pose. And on top of it, we got a brand new sign that can rain confetti on our heads. It don't get any better than that. It really doesn't. Oh, with the exception that the sign is glowing right now, very bright. It gets better than that. And this great moment in wrestling history comes from the video game none other than WWE 2K25. And this great moment in wrestling history took place approximately just around 3 weeks ago, leading into one of the biggest WrestleManias in Alex's universe today, because it looked like history was going to repeat itself. Because at this point, for those who remembered, My Little Pony, as I called her, Paige, would once again find herself with championship gold around her waist after winning the said championship and defending it at the Royal Rumble. But at the same time, at the Royal Rumble match, in an intergender fight for the ages, which would see Tama Loa going up against none other than Barbara Santos as the last woman standing and the last man standing to fight against each other to find out who was going to WrestleMania. But unfortunately, Tama Loa would drop the ball of sorts and would get his head knocked off his shoulders like a rag doll for none other than Barbara Santos to punch her ticket to go to WrestleMania. So the match was set, folks. 2 weeks from now would see none other than Barbara Santos going one-on-one against Paige Storm for the Women's Undisputed Championship. Now, last year around this time, we would see Paige going up against possibly one of the best women wrestlers in Alex's universe in the form of Valkyrie, who was someone who would kick your head off and knock your lights out within seconds. And after losing that match last year at WrestleMania, we would see her bounce back and would learn some new tricks of the trade and would show it the first night on Monday Night Raw, proving that she definitely did deserve that championship that she won and couldn't defend at WrestleMania. And would decide to do a new move she added to the repertoire, which would be this rolling thunder kick right directly to their opponent's head, knocking them senseless and at the same time taking them off their game, and several people would figure that out along the road to WrestleMania. But once the lights were on bright and while we were on that big stage of WrestleMania for the 52nd time in Alex's universe, I would see a brand new confidence in her and some more new moves out of the plate too. Because not only she would be able to pull off a coast-to-coast Asai moonsault, reminding me of AKI Man or THQ Man from NWO WCW Revenge, but even being able to pull off a finishing move where she would hit a rolling stunner similar to the one Grayson Waller would hit, for me to say every time she did, my God, which would make Alex King and company laugh, but at the same time, this match was no laughing matter. Because Barbara Santos winning her first Royal Rumble and to prove a point that she was going to go home with the gold would try to take the head off of Paige Storm on a multitude of occasions, but at the same time would only pick up near falls for each one of these cases. And as both of them would knock directly into prime bottles, take announce tables apart, and beat each other senseless with candlesticks, steel chairs, and everything else that wasn't nailed down, it would seem that the women's champion of the Undisputed Variety would have met her match until one fatal flaw was made. And what would be that fatal flaw, folks? The classic fatal flaw of underestimating your opponent. Because we would see her drop her to the ground in the form of Paige Storm by Barbara Santos, and she would celebrate afterwards thinking that it was all said and done. For the move to get reversed with a reverse Irish whip, roll off the ropes, and another rolling stunner, stunning her out of her shoes, stunning the fans in attendance, and for Paige Storm to go home still your women's world champion, or undisputed champion according to Carl and the Maestro, via pinfall. And she would make her way to Backlash to hopefully defend that championship against one of the members of the Cyberlink Quake. But unfortunately, when it comes to those 7-foot-tall mechanical robots with a vengeance, all it takes is one clothesline and you're done. And unfortunately for Paige Storm, despite her height and size, yeah, let's just say she would spin like a Beyblade after getting clothesline out of her shoes, but it would take 3 of those set clotheslines and a devastating powerbomb to take her off her game and out of this match for the champion to reign supreme of the Cyberlink Quay variety. But at the same time, Paige Storm in that one match would be able to do something she couldn't do last year, and that was win back the championship she lost and successfully defend it on the grandest stage of them all, of WrestleMania. An accomplishment that I got a feeling is gonna probably follow her to the end of her career, which at this point is somewhat Hall of Fame worthy. Even though she only won 2 championships, the fact that she was able to put up one hell of a fight, and proving it's not the size of the dog in a fight, but the fight in the dog, is definitely something always worth mentioning on this very programming. And with that said, folks, wraps it up for a very special comeback story, WrestleMania Anniversary Sized Edition of the DJ Smokies. Great moments in wrestling history. And I guess with that said, folks, I think it's time for us to head back to that music once again. And when we return, we'll be back with more right after this. So stay tuned. Right, all you Streetlight Crusaders, welcome back to the 11 at Night Special. And one thing I forgot to include for that story, I do believe after that match and after Paige Storm lost the title, I'm pretty sure the Cyberlink Quay held on to all of the championships. And for those who don't know what I mean about the Cyberlink Quay, it's these big 6 foot, anyway, straight that, according to Call of the Mice Show, 7 foot tall robots that was created in some form of laboratory that power bombs people on the side of aprons. Very dangerous, very dangerous. But besides trying to describe 3 of the tallest women that I've ever seen in a game, yeah, I think it's time, oh, and there he is, for Dan the Weatherman Stu to deliver the weather for this week, or more or less, here's Dan the Weatherman Stu to deliver the 5-day weather forecast for this week. Dan the Weatherman Stu, the microphone is all yours. That outfit is brighter than all hell, and yeah, just go take it. Go take it. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from around the world, it's your boy from Chicago, Illinois, Dan the Weatherman Stu here to begin to find out what the forecast for this week. And I had to bring out the special outfit for the 11-year anniversary. Yeah. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And first of all, secondly, it is really hard to see with that outfit on it. Call it a mic show. Could you give me my sunglasses? Thank you. All right. Now I know what direction I'm yelling at. Why did you bring that thing here? Jeez. It's bright. And this room is dark. And you got the bright outfit on. It's ridiculous. No, it isn't, DJ Smokey. It's a celebration. It's a party. It's a fiesta tonight. For 11 years. Yeah, it is. But, you know, maybe next time when we have a celebration, you don't bring an overly bright outfit that has taken out at least 45% my vision within seconds. And while I go get some eye drops so I can clearly see after that bright outfit, why don't you go do the weather? Yeah, do me a favor. Go do the weather. Jeez, my eyes. All right. So for tonight, that's right, Tuesday night, it's going to be a low of 48. Cloudy skies all around with winds going northwest at 6 miles per hour. And on Wednesday, here comes the wind. Cause it's gonna be a high of 76, low of 49. Partly cloudy skies with winds going northwest at 7 miles per hour. And on Thursday, a sunny day finally, cause it's gonna be a high of 78, low of 51. Sunny skies all around with winds going northwest at 9 miles per hour. That's southeast. I meant southeast. And on Friday, start of the spring weekend, baby. Cause it's gonna be a high of 79, low of 58. Mostly cloudy skies with winds going southwest at 9 miles per hour. And on Saturday, here comes the rain. Cause it's gonna be a high of 73, low of 45. Showers all around at 56%, with winds going west at 14 miles per hour. And on Sunday, an actual sunny day, cause it's gonna be a high of 70 degrees, low of 44. Sunny skies all around with winds going north, northwest at 14 miles per hour. And now you know, cause I've gotta go, because I am Dan the Weather Man Stewart. I am through for the weather broadcast for this week. And now back to the man who's holding my bird hat in his hand, DJ Smokey for the Tuesday Night Special. I meant the 11 at night special, baby. Yeah. Well, at least you got the show name right, but I got a feeling by next year we might have to call this the Midnight Special. Yeah, it would be the 12 at night. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to get some paperwork out, and I got a feeling the Midnight Special might be for next year's big anniversary show. All right. Can I be a part of it? Why, yes, Dan the Weatherman Stu. Yes, you can be a part of it, but at the same time, the next time you bring this bright, overly bright outfit that blinds my vision, I got a feeling we might have to get another weatherman to get the job done. That's not fair. You can't have somebody else do my job for me. Don't worry, Dan the Weatherman Stu. There will never be a day we replace you as a weatherman, because nobody else is willing to do the job at this late of hours of the night. And trust me, I called a guy in Cincinnati, and he said absolutely not. All right, my job is safe. Time to go out and celebrate. Dan the Weatherman Stu out. Hey, I didn't say your job was safe. There was a guy in Kentucky that was willing to... Oh, well, he's gone. He's gone. But, you know, I might have to contact that guy in Kentucky. But other than trying to contact other people from other states to be a weatherman in the middle of the night for an insomniatic broadcast, I think it's time for us to head back to that music once again. And when we return, we'll be back with another edition of the Indy Report right after this. So don't go watching infomercials just yet, folks, and stay tuned. All right, all you Streetlight Crusaders, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And according to Carl of the Maestro, after I didn't call it the 11 at night special at this point, why won't we just call it the Tuesday Night Special from here on out? You know what? Why not? Why not? I mean, that's what it is. This is the day it was born. We might as well just keep calling it the Tuesday Night Special. Yeah, it's got a nice ring to it. Yeah, for the past 11 years, that is. But besides things that has a great ring to it that actually shines underneath these streetlights at night, I think it's time for us to go into one of my favorite parts of the show. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, none other than the Indy Report, which is me giving you guys 2 news stories followed up by local concert information from local artists performing in a local area live near you. And in our first news story, and in exciting news for you fans of the Motor City Machine Guns and Up, Up, Down, Down, because this past week to test out the brand new game of Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, we would see not only Alex Shelley but Chris Sabin, Hail Sabin, both featured a part of Up, Up, Down, Down this week, taking on the New Day in a good old-fashioned game of Fatal Fury. for one, who am a huge fan of the Motor City Machine Guns, is excited to see the fact that they finally made their debut a part of Up, Up, Down, Down. Now, here's hoping in the near future we get the chance to see them try to compete for the Up, Up, Down, Down championship. Because I'm pretty sure the status of that belt is still up in the air, even though R-Truth said that he's world champion. Yeah, they need to have a tournament and soon, and hopefully Rusev is in it as well, too. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out the cool debut of the Motor City Machine Guns, a part of Up, Up, Down, Down, then you can go ahead and head on over to the YouTube page of one man only known as Up, Up, Down, Down to check it out for yourselves. And Carl and the Maestro's asking me, when will they ever fight each other in the ring? Who knows? Maybe somewhere down the line. Probably around Survivor Series. That seems to be their thing. And in other news, and more or less news for you fans out there of Chris Van Vliet, because he would be able to use the platform to interview the role model herself, none other than Bayley. Nice! And I, for one, am very excited to hear what Bayley's got to say and what sort of cool moments she had in her career behind the camera and in front of it. And especially seeing the fact that after she got attacked this past weekend, I'm still wondering who in the world did it. And at the same time, Carl and the Maestro believed that it was Becky Lynch. I got a feeling it probably was. I really do. But outside of that accusation that we just made towards the man, if you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out the cool interview with Bayley on the Chris Van Vliet show, then you can go ahead and check it out on the YouTube page of one man only known as Chris Van Vliet to check it out for yourselves. And with that said, folks, we now make our way on over to the concert information. And we kick things off with Wednesday, April 23rd. And the first band that we have up is Bobby Folk Music, who's going to be performing at the Owendaw Green in Owendaw, South Carolina at 5:30 p.m. Hobbs Sisters is both going to be performing at the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville, Tennessee at 6 p.m. Alexa Wiley is going to be performing at the Laurel Thirst Public House in Portland, Oregon at 6 p.m. You can also see Midnight Hellion with Anvil and Don Jamieson, who's going to be performing at the Dingbats in Clifton, New Jersey at 6 p.m. Red Farron with Emily Zeck is both going to be performing at the Rev Room in Little Rock, Arkansas at 7 p.m. Lisa and Lauren is both going to be performing at the Red Brick Tavern in Conroe, Texas at 7 p.m. The Florist, You and I, and Stalked and Lakya is all going to be performing at the Cobra Lounge in Chicago, Illinois at 7 p.m. Not a Surf with Clay is all going to be performing at the Sticky's Rock and Roll Chicken Shack in Little Rock, Arkansas at 7 p.m. The Rob Gracia Band is going to be performing at the Luna Bob in South Padre Island, Texas at 9 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Wednesday night, you can see, and completely out of order according to Carl and the Maestro, the Equinox Jazz Tet, who's going to be performing at the Teddy Rose in Albuquerque, New Mexico at 7 p.m. And on Thursday, and apparently according to Carl and the Maestro, Thursday, April 24th, thank you for correcting me before I got it wrong, you can see these following bands performing in a local area near you live. The C4 Band is going to be performing at the Bobby's Idol Tavern in Nashville, Tennessee at 12:30 p.m. Peggy Retus is going to be performing at the Highland Brewing Company in Nashville, North Carolina at 5 p.m. Post-sex nachos with 6 Foot Blonde. Nice band names is both going to be performing at the Stickies Rock and Roll Chicken Shack in Little Rock, Arkansas at 7 p.m. Efron White with Lauren Bain is both going to be performing at the Commodore Grill in Nashville, Tennessee at 7 p.m. Sam Long with Misbehaved are apparently, according to Carl and the Maestro, Misha Ben David. Nice band name is going to be performing at the Nair World Deli in Austin, Texas at 7 p.m. Buck Yeager is going to be performing at the Red Brick Tavern in Conroe, Texas at 7 p.m. Patrice Pike is going to be performing at the Saxton Pub in Austin, Texas at 8 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Thursday night, you can see We Collective, who's going to be performing at the Klug Bar and Grill and Restaurant in Minneapolis, Minnesota at 10 p.m. And for Tuesday for next week, which is the 29th, the somewhat other anniversary date of the Tuesday Night Special, you can see these following bands performing in a local area live near you. And before we go into the band and Carl and the Maestro scratching their head about the statement we just made, for those who don't know, the other day that we actually released the show, because the tape got chewed up for the Tuesday Night Special for that week, it was actually a week later, but we always celebrated on the 22nd instead of the 29th. But I digress, because the next band we have up is David Grogan, who's going to be performing at the Max Speed Shop in Greenville, South Carolina at 5 p.m. Andy K. Joyner is going to be performing at the Laguna Bob in South Padre Island, Texas at 5:30 p.m. Lilac is going to be performing at the Brick by Brick in San Diego, California at 6:30 p.m. Shelly King with Carolyn Wonderland is both going to be performing at the Continental Club in Austin, Texas at 6:30 p.m. Nate Nilsson Acoustic is going to be performing at the Red Brick Tavern in Conroe, Texas at 7 p.m. 171 is going to be performing at the Stage AE in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at 7 p.m. Midnight Summers is going to be performing at the Hard Rock Cafe in Hollywood Boulevard in Los Angeles, California at 7 p.m. Scotty Alexander is going to be performing at the South Padre Island in Texas at 8:30 p.m. and apparently, according to Carl and the Maestro, at the Laguna Bob. Thank you for the correction. And to finally wrap things up for Tuesday for next week and all the bands we're going to mention for this week, you could see Alex Koch with Rob Men, Joseph Woolard, Brad Andrew, and 6 other bands yet to be announced, who's all going to be performing at the Munch Jazz in Austin, Texas at 8 p.m. And Carl and the Maestro said you might as well mention one more band since you got that one out of order. And the last but not least truly band that's going to wrap up things for tonight is going to be none other than the Mitch Raymond Trio, who's going to be performing at the Prohibition at Murray, Utah at 8 p.m. And they said good enough. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out the complete list of bands that we couldn't mention during this very broadcast, and trust me, folks, there were a lot of them, you can head on over to ReverbNation.com to check out the complete list of bands that we couldn't list during this very broadcast. And while you're over there, check out a couple of their cool tunes. Trust me, they're worth the listen. And like we say at the end of all of these skits, Go out there, support your local artists, and see these guys perform live. And trust me, they'll love you for it. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back into that music one more time. And when we return, we'll be back with the final segment for the 11 at Night special for this week, right after this. So don't fall asleep just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Well, all you Streetlight Crusaders, seeing the fact that we're fresh out of music and fresh out of Streetlight Crusading oil for this week, it looks like we've got to bring the 11 at Night special for this week to an emphatic close. But if you miss any of this anniversary insomniatic goodness we were able to give you for this week, don't worry, we got you covered, because you can catch this show again one more time, all the time, on our SoundCloud, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, and Live 365 pages, still all named the same, only known as Music Village Radio under the hashtag Tuesday Night Special 536. And according to Carl and the Maestro, that's what time they thought we were going to wrap up the show for this week, just at 5:36 in the morning. I was thinking about it, but then I thought I had work in the morning, so yeah, we had to wrap it up. And if you guys want to figure out what the crazy and zany things we still got prepared for this month of Fools, like a show that probably would have went on until sunrise if it hadn't been for work in the following next couple of hours, then you can go ahead and check it out on our YouTube, Discord, and Twitter pages, still all named the same, only known as CWH 0012. Before we head out for the night, and really from the bottom of my heart, I would like to thank you, the Streetlight Crusaders out there, for listening in to a very special Streetlight 11-year homecoming edition of the Tuesday Night Special. And seriously, guys, this has been an awesome journey for the past 11 years, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So as long as you're up at around infomercial hours, you can always expect to hear this show on your AM, FM, or internet dials. That's if the internet has any dials on them. And we would also like to thank, and Carl and the Maestro said we almost forgot. Oh yeah, if you guys and gals out there like what you heard, go out there and spread the word. You know what? Like Cartman, whenever he gets ticked off and says he's leaving. Yeah, you know, the PR department knows where I'm going with this, and they're dressed as Cartman right now. Huh, interesting. Very interesting. And we would also like to thank you, the independent artists out there, for doing that musical goodness like you always do. And keep up the great work, guys. And here's hoping one day that you can actually play me to this desk in a live band capacity. And why? Because we believe in you guys. That's why. That's why. Plus, it'll make us look cool while we wear this suit while we head toward that stage or that desk. You know, like the late night show we always wanted and got with this. And speaking of people we would like to thank who would bring us in for a show during a regular late night programming, we would really love to thank Jason Klug with his said song of Pet the Dog that was featured for the majority of this Tuesday Night Special. And seriously, man, for all these years you've given us permission to play that song on the airwaves to bring us in, we really appreciate it. Seriously. Also, we would like to thank TechnoAxe with every single song we're able to bring, including Friday Funk. That's usually an outro for this show, but yeah, thank you, man, for allowing us to use your music to be featured a part of this show. And of course, we would like to thank Carl and the Maestro with their musical prowess that they bring to the show as well, too, and for helping us out with this broadcast just about every single night to make sure things don't fall apart in the middle of the night. Because for those who don't know, customer service isn't up at these late hours of the night. So the fact that Carl and the Maestro's on my side to help me out, really do appreciate it, guys. Really do. And we would also like to thank, and yes, we're going to thank him, Carl and the Maestro. We would love to thank Dan the Weatherman Stu for bringing the weather to us for well over 11 years a part of this broadcast. And despite his silly shenanigans, wouldn't have any other weatherman on our side to help us out with this broadcast. And even, you know what? Might as well thank the PR department while we're at it too. Thank you guys for wearing all those crazy costumes every single time we wrap up the shows. And not to mention helping us spread the word out there of all the cool things we've got coming down the tubes. It really helps. It really helps. And outside of thanking them, we would also like to thank none other than Patrick Crocker, friends, family, and even the sources that we were able to use to bring this show into your homes. Not only we would love to thank Live 365, also your and our city radio, along with SoundCloud and YouTube, especially SoundCloud for us being, or them being kind enough to give us a home for well over 11 years now. We would really love to thank you guys, and also would definitely love to thank none other than our mom for really believing in the late night programming we were able to bring to the table and definitely supporting our dreams to the end. And seriously, thank you every single one of you for being a part of this late night programming and something that I wanted to do since I was a wee child. So it really means the world to me, and here's to number 12 when we make it there. And finally, last but certainly not least, we would like to thank you, the independent gamers out there, for delivering all those sweet video game hits and clips we were able to mention throughout the past 11 years for the Tuesday Night Special. And one person we would like to thank from the gaming department for that, we would really love to thank none other than Cade for allowing us to mention all of the games that we've been mentioning for the past 11 years. And to Cade, here's hoping in the near future you can jump on the late night bandwagon so we can get an interview with you guys in the near future. Seriously, we would love to have you on the show, so why don't you come on, grab a cup of coffee, and, you know, stay up with us Streetlight Crusaders. And like always, guys, keep the great games and other things a-coming, because you never know what show might be lurking around the corner next. Hint, 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 hint. And Carl and the Maestro said we have but one more person left to thank, and they're thanking me. Wait, why? Apparently they said for giving them a job for 11 years. Oh, all right. Paid in experience, but, you know, you're welcome, because it's been a blast. And I guess with everybody thanked, you guys out there know we go out. I'm DJ Smokey on behalf of Carl and the Maestro, and for you up-all-nighters, late-night drivers, insomniac TV watchers, gamers, grapplers, street sweepers, and especially you Streetlight Crusaders who's celebrating all around the world for a show that's 11 years young and able to bring it back home for a big celebration, saying, all right, screw you guys, I'm going home. But most importantly, when there's smoke, there's fire. And we'll see you guys next week for a very special, foolhardy, month-ending edition of a Tuesday Night Special. But until then, thank you for watching. See you next week. Go get some sleep, and good night, everybody.